Hello, hello. I'm Christelle and I'm really glad that you're here. And if this is your first time joining me, welcome. So this space is called Watercolor Moments Old Testament, and I want to tell you a little bit about what this is and what this isn't so that you can settle comfortably. So this is an art practice that is centered around scripture. Each week we'll take a short passage from the Old Testament and we're going to pair it with a small watercolor painting, something simple and doable and meant to fit into real life. Because listen, I know that you're busy, I'm busy too. And something I really want to stress to you is you don't need to be an artist to be here. You don't even need to know how to paint. You could have never picked up a paintbrush before, and that's totally fine. And you also don't need to feel confident or prepared or spiritual enough. You're welcome exactly as you are. So for me, this practice grew out of a desire to spend some more intentional time with God that felt human. It felt like me and not rushed, not performative, and not perfect. Painting, it always helps me to slow down and pay attention and also stay present long enough to actually feel what the scripture is offering. And that's the invitation I want to give to you too. Each session is meant to be a moment. That's why it's called Watercolor Moments. So not a lesson to master. Think of it as a pause, a place to breathe, and a way to reflect through your hands as much as through your heart and mind. Some weeks we'll paint words and some weeks we'll paint images that are inspired by the scripture. Sometimes you'll notice that there's some intentional quiet pauses, and sometimes I'm going to share a thought or observation that stood out to me. Now, I'm not here to teach theology or explain scripture to you. I'm simply sharing what I notice about a passage that stirred in me and also trusting that you'll notice what you need to. So during the painting portion, you'll see my hands while I paint, just like you would if you were sitting next to me in an in-person class. So I'll guide you step by step, but you're always free to adapt, change colors, simplify, or totally go in a different direction and making this your own. So if something doesn't go to plan, that's okay. We'll keep going. In fact, I know that that's going to happen. Probably I will put my hand in wet paint. If you know me, you know that I do this constantly. So I'll leave that in the videos for you. Just so you know that I'm human. I make mistakes too. So before we begin, I wanted to share what you'll need, okay? So for this class, you'll want a watercolor journal. So I recommend 140-pound paper. So if you look on the front, it'll say the weight on there. And I recommend this because it can handle the water and paint. So this journal that I'm using, it's the Strathmore Visual Journal. It's 5.5 by 8 inches, and I like it because it's small and approachable. I like the spiral binding. We'll also be using watercolor paints, obviously. I really like Winsor & Newton Cotman because they're compact and they have some really great pigments. Let me just grab this one. So they come in different sizes, so you can, if you want to get these, you totally can. But you can really use whatever watercolor you already have on hand. You're also going to want a pencil, grabbing stuff off my desk here, a pencil and eraser. I personally just like a mechanical pencil and I like a kneaded eraser. Personal preference, totally fine. And if you're writing the scripture on, actually, let me just show you an example. So we're going to write the scripture on one side of the journal, okay, on the left side, and then do the painting on the right. So if you are writing the scripture on the left-hand side and then painting over like I am, then you're also going to want a waterproof pen. I like these Micron pens, okay? Optional supplies, okay? If you're just like, I want to go all out and get other things, I don't know, or use what you have. I will also be grabbing colored pencils and gel pens. And I really, really like a heat tool that just helps things to dry quicker. You could also use a blow dryer, but none of those things are required. So use what you have, and I'll link everything I'm using below this video if that's helpful to you, but don't feel like you need to get those things specifically, okay? So like I was saying, on the left side of the page, I usually will write the scripture ahead of time. Now, if handwriting feels stressful to you, no worries, I've got you, okay? Each week I'll provide a printable PDF. You can just cut that out and you can glue it directly into your journal or use washi tape if you prefer. Anyways, fine. My hope for you is when you leave a session, you feel a little bit lighter. And what I want you to know is these videos are not about perfection. They're about process and presence. So thank you for being here. I'm really glad that you came. When you're ready, gather your supplies and let's begin. Bye, friends.